Greetings, everybody. I'm Jeremiah.
That's him.
She's Vania.
That's me. Welcome to another episode of the Beard and Curls podcast, where culture and creativity meets consciousness.
And if you're new here, consider subscribing to our YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite platform for the latest, most exciting conversations anywhere.
You ready?
I'm ready. Cue that intro.
What's up, guys? It's your girl, Margot Bingham.
Karen Parsons.
You're now tuned in.
You're now tuned in.
You are now tuned in.
You are now tuned in
To Beard and Curls.
Beard and Curls.
Beard and Curls.
Beard and Curls.
Beard and Curls. Keep it locked.
Today's guest is a reporter, fill-in anchor who works for an ABC News affiliate and can be seen every night on WDHN News. She has worked on shows like Real Housewives of Orange County, Country Ever After, etc.
More importantly, she wants to be an example in this world by being a good person. We're talking about none other than Ilyana Capellan.
Ilyana, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I am honored to be here virtually.
All right, so let's get started. Your experiences range from childcare to healthcare. So tell us a little bit about your journey to becoming a reporter.
Yeah, so my experiences do range widely from childcare to healthcare, back into childcare, focusing on broadcast media, working in reality TV production, and then finally now here I am, a reporter. I started babysitting at 12 years old, and I did that all the way until I was graduating college. And in college, I was a nanny, and I got really close to one family, and that's actually my goddaughter now. So I've gotten great relationships out of babysitting and childcare. And while I was in college, I was studying broadcast media, and the goal was to be on TV one day. At that time, I thought all I wanted to do was entertainment news. I slowly learned that, I was interested in all aspects of news and reporting. But before that, I thought that I wanted to be a pediatrician, a pediatric nurse. So I was all over the spectrum. But math and science are not my thing. So I was like, let me be realistic here. I'm really good hands-on and did great in our high school had ROP courses. So we do different medical licensing that we had that we could enroll in. And so I did great in those hands-on classes. But when you had to get me in anatomy and biology, I was like, this isn't for your girl. So that's when I discovered what else can I do to help people and talk to people? And I remember sitting down with my guidance counselor when I started school at Austin Peay State University. And I got scouted there through cheerleading. So I kind of jumped into that situation. I remember I was with my cheer team in California, and that was OCC. We were the Pirates, and we had gone to Florida for a competition. We won nationals. I was asked to stunt with another team, and this team happened to be from Tennessee. And so I was like, sure, I'll stunt with you. Whatever, I'll play around. They asked me to come out for tryouts, and I was like, yeah, that sounds great. I'll come and try out. I made the team, and I remember calling my mom and being like, I made the team. Yay, go me. She's like, that means you have to move out there. And I was like, oh God, what did I just do? I've lived in the same house my entire life, and now I'm moving cross country. And I remember sitting there with my guidance counselor and being like, well, what can I do? I don't know what I'm here to cheer, but I know that I need a degree. And my parents didn't go to college, so this was kind of all new territory for me. They have their high school diplomas, and they have some community college credits, but both of them, they were first generation in the States. So college was really new territory for me. And for my siblings, they all went through the military and kind of got their education that way. And that's the way that my dad also did it. So for me to not go into the military was completely different than the rest of my family. And so I had to figure things out on my own and as we were doing it. So financial aid, I had no idea how to even get started on that. I didn't even take my ACTs or SATs in high school because I was like, I'm going to go to a community college and then figure it out from there. I don't need to do that stuff. So it was all brand new. And my counselor was like, well, you like to talk to people. What about communications? And I was like, okay. I mean, I lived in California my entire life, and I feel like everybody that lives in California at one point or another has done some sort of acting. So I was like being on camera, and she was like, yeah, you can be on camera, you can be in radio. And I was like, that sounds fun. Okay, I can do that. She was like, well, get involved with the broadcast media department, see what you can do, kind of see if you like it. And I did. As soon as I stopped cheering, I ended up going into like getting deep into my broadcast media department, and I was hosting and producing and doing their news as well. And so that's kind of where that love for that came from, because I went from going to school because I was scouted for cheer on a cheer scholarship. I got hurt. I had like my sixth concussion, and I was like, well, I'm out. Like, I can't do this anymore. And I was devastated about that because up until that point, I kind of identified with what I was doing. So when I was younger, I was in the performing arts. You know, I acted, I did singing, I did musical theater, I did gymnastics, like I did all that stuff. So I always identified as like, oh, you're the little girl that's like singing, or you were the girl that was doing this, or you're the girl on the top of the pyramid. And I'm like, yeah, that's me. And so when I got hurt and realized that that wasn't going to be me anymore, and I was in a new state, I kind of had to re-identify myself and kind of be like, okay, this is me. This is what I'm going to do. And it took my now husband, but at the time he was my boyfriend, to kind of like guide me with that and be like, look, like, you don't have to be the cheerleader. You don't have to be like that girl. You can be anything you want to be. So like, figure it out right now. And that's what I did. Now, of course, after I graduated, I kind of hit the ground running. I was pretty lucky. I got a job in production right away. And for me, that was what I thought was going to be the quickest route to getting on camera or on the mic, on the radio. And so I was a production assistant for a show called Dance Twins that has yet to air, but it's for Lifetime, and it's by the same company that does Dance Moms. And so I worked with them for pretty much the whole summer. And the way that production works is you have a job for, you know, the season or the duration of filming, and then you have to find another job. So that was really scary for me because my parents were like, get a job with health insurance and benefits and, you know, like the traditional job. And I was like, okay, well, I have a job for 3 months. So there's no health insurance benefits. There's no dental plan, medical plan. Like, there's none of that. And they were like, okay. So I did that, and I worked in TV production from 2017 until 2019. And in 2019, I got married. And right before we got married, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do my last show so that it ends in like June. And that way I have kind of the summer to finish planning the wedding, since the wedding was in September. I stopped the shows, and September came and went, got married, was great. And I was like, now what am I going to do? Because that was that choice where I was like, do I go back into production where I'm doing really well? I was working up the ladder. I was producing, and I was good at it. And like, I had great mentors that wanted to see me go far in TV production, but it wasn't bringing me joy. And I felt a little bit weird in the sense that in TV production, you know, and producing, your job is to kind of like stir the pot. Now, for me, like, okay, great, anybody can stir the pot. But for me, it was hard to deal with the fact that after the pot's been stirred, these people still have to deal with that, like whether it's on camera, off camera. And for me, I get to go home and I'm making a check off of that. Like, I don't know, it was hard. Now, there are some shows that are complete feel-good shows and you don't have to stir the pot. But like, for certain shows, I was like, this is just not, I'm not doing it. And I don't see myself on the trajectory that I wanted to do. So the ladder for me was production, make connections, somehow get on like E! News. That's what I thought. Like, I was like, if I continue working on shows that are on Bravo and E!, I'm going to do it. I'm going to meet the right person. And I've met great people. I met Juliana Rancic, and that was like the best moment of my life because I was like, oh my God, I'm reading your book and you're like my idol. And I just want to be like you and Ryan Seacrest. But that was the extent of it. You know, working in production was, I got to meet these people, have conversations with them, but I wasn't able to kind of showcase myself as a reporter or as an on-camera personality. So what did I do? I was like, well, my fallback plan has always been medical careers. So I got a job at a doctor's office, and I was a receptionist. And then I was training to do something with their medical, like social media and communications line, because they were like, well, you have a degree in communications, like let's use that, we'll have you be kind of our liaison, our communication liaison. And I was like, okay, great. And when that position was offered to me, it was right around my birthday, and I'm known to do things around my birthday. Like, I either cut people out of my life or I just go on a whim and start something new. And so that's kind of what happened. My husband we had like a very real conversation where he was like, you're not doing what you want to do, and it's affecting your life and your happiness. And if you don't at least go after what you want to do, like, you're not going to be happy. And I was like, well, you're right. But also living in LA, it's hard because I could get jobs, hosting and reporting, but a lot of those things are YouTube, are, volunteer bases. Like, put in the time, which is great. Put in the time, get the experience, but you're working for free. And for me, I didn't have the luxury of just working for free. I had to work so that I could pay my apartment and pay my bills and all this stuff. So I was like, you're right. And I would get frustrated with him every time he'd say something like this, because I'm like, well, what do you want me to do about it? Like, I know that I need to start somewhere, but LA is really hard to start. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not impossible. But for me, I was trying. And everybody that I was talking to was like, you need to go to a smaller market. You need to try somewhere else. So I was like, okay, I understand that. So it was the week before my birthday, or like a couple weeks before my birthday. And he brought it up again and was like, you're not doing what you want to do. You need to do what you want to do. You want to have kids, but you're not going to have kids. Like, we're not going to have kids until you're actually trying to do what you want to do, because I don't want you to be unhappy later and da da da. And I was like, everything you're saying makes sense, but it makes me so upset. Like, why? And so I got mad. And truthfully, that's what it was. I got mad and annoyed with the conversation. And I was like, whatever, I'm going to apply to every position that I see available on every news station in California, in wherever, like any state, I'm going to apply. And so that's what I did. I applied like a mad woman, and I got the position here. I got offered a position here. And I, in that moment, I was like, sure, why not? Like, he's right. We don't have kids. This is the opportunity. I have that opportunity to kind of travel and that flexibility to do it without having to be like, oh no, like, I can't leave, or, I'm going to have to move myself and my family. So I was like, let me do it. Let's go. So I applied. I got this position. I actually reached out to my current news director on LinkedIn, just asking for advice. I was like, I just need to know, like, what you think of my reel, what I can work on. Just advice, like, really just advice. And he gave me that advice, and he was like, but like, apply for this position, see what they say. I was like, okay. Not really realizing that he, I think, told the news director at the time to like kind of look at my application, because he was going to be the incoming news director. So he kind of had an in there and was like, oh, well, I'm starting at this news station. Maybe you could start there too. And so I got offered this position March 17th. And I started April 20th. Mind you, I'm in Dothan, Alabama now. I was in downtown Los Angeles then. So I got offered the position March 17th, and that was over the phone. We had like a phone interview. Everything was very like different. And I was kind of like, he was like, so, these are some apartments. If you want to check out the price of living, get back to me if you're interested in the position. I was like, okay. So I started looking at apartments, and once again, I called my mom and I was like, I just want to like mentally prepare you for the fact that I just had an interview. The position's in Alabama. It went really well. So there's a chance I could be moving. And she was like, hi, Ilyana, but like, when? How are you just going to move across the country? And I was like, I don't know, but I'm going to do it. And that's what happened. So I told her, I gave her about 3 weeks notice, because then I was like, all right, like, I'm hopping on a plane, I'm leaving. And Rashawn, my husband, was like, okay, like, let's do this. Like, you got the position, great. He was so supportive all along the way. And I remember being like, oh my God, am I really doing this? And then we did it, and I got here, and I literally have not looked back. I've gone back home to visit once, and it was great, but I'm at a much better place mentally and probably physically too. Like, I'm just so much happier doing what I want to do. And it just really speaks to, I think, going after your dreams, even though it can be scary, to like take that leap to do it.
I really like what you said about going after your dream, because like that, like, it makes so much sense, but still it's like one of the hardest things to do for a lot of people, because it's easy to choose comfort, well, quote unquote comfort, because
Yes.
At the end of the day, when you think about it, is it true comfort, or are you taking a risk not to fully reach your potential? Like, that is also a risk.
Yes.
Like holding on to quote unquote comfort. So I think this is really, really inspiring to hear how you went through the process, and also the role that your husband had in the process, because he actually kind of like pushed you to
Oh, he did. He did. I mean, like I say, like it was a full blown, like it was a conversation. It was one of those like not fun conversations where I was like, I'm so sick of hearing you say I'm not doing what I want to do. And then being like, all right, that's it. Like that's gonna be the fire that was a little kick in the butt that I needed to like
Yes.
do what I needed to do.
Okay, so then I want to kind of talk a little bit about your role as a reporter. I know one of the things that you said offline is that as a reporter, your job is to report facts and your opinion. So can you tell me what the significance of that is for you?
Yeah, my job is to report facts. It is not to give my opinion. And I think that that's important for everybody to realize, but it's important, especially right now, as we're seeing with like, the political climate and everything going on in the world. People don't agree on things, and that's okay. And I think that that's something that I've always understood is that I can have a different opinion than the person right next to me, but that doesn't mean that I don't have to like them or that we can't be friends. And my job, ultimately, it's as simple as that. My job is to report the facts, to report the person's story that is talking to me, and that's it. There's no room for my opinion and my thoughts or views on a subject. People watch the news to know what's going on ultimately, and it's not fair to people who want to know what's going on to only get one side of the story. So I try to give them just the facts without my opinion. And that's not to say that I haven't done stories that I don't agree with, or that I've done stories that I absolutely loved. And I still, I can't show a bias. I have to keep a very neutral ground and just stick to the facts. So that's what I try to do. And I try to let my interview subject tell their story and give them that respect, the same respect that I would want if I was telling my own story. So I just think that there's a lot to learn from one another, whether we agree with each other or not. And the biggest thing is to have an open mind and open ears. I think a lot of people hear things, but they don't listen to things.
A lot of times I hear, different people say, "Oh, that's not real news," or "That's fake news," or "That's propaganda," different things like that. Like I kind of want to know, like, what's the difference? Like, being that you're in the field, like, are you able to kind of, share a little bit about when it becomes other than facts, when it's like propaganda or something like that?
Yeah. And I'm not there yet, so I don't know. I think you have to experience it to really pinpoint that like moment when it changes. And then also it plays into the role of like your integrity as a journalist and as a reporter, where that lies for you. And so for me, like I've said, I've reported on plenty of subjects that I don't like. I've reported on plenty of subjects that I do love, but my role is not to show whether I like that subject or not. It's just to state the facts that are being given to me. And sometimes you're stating the facts and you're stating literally all you know. And you get that wrath of like, well, you didn't report on this. Well, if nobody's telling me that, like, how am I supposed to know that? And that is where it gets kind of hard and the lines get a little bit because there's a lot of times that I would love to report on something and share someone's story, but unless they're willing and open to share it with me, I can't share it for them. It's a lot. There's a lot that needs to be done on both parts, news organizations and people that are wanting to share their story, and people that feel so passionately about news being fake, then come up and show me stuff to prove what you're talking about. Of course, there's conspiracy theories and there's just like wild things that you read on Facebook. And of course, I think that would be safe to be like, maybe not true. If it says share or you're going to have 7 years of bad luck, it's probably not a fact.
Exactly. I would agree. Or something we get from a fortune cookie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
I can respect that though, Ilyana, as far as like, just knowing that even if you don't like a particular story or something like that, but you just report, say the facts that you have about that. So I can appreciate that.
Yeah, me too. And I really like what you said earlier about also listening and hearing. And I think being able to do that, like still being able to show respect for somebody who doesn't share the same views, I think that's very, very mature just in general, not only like at work, but just in general. I think that's a skill that a lot of us can benefit from.
It goes a long way. And I think that along with that, empathy goes a long way because everybody has their story. Everybody has their views and their feelings about things. And who am I to say that your feelings are incorrect? It's the same way that, like if I say I'm happy watching Grey's Anatomy and it's the saddest scene of an episode, but it makes me happy to watch it. Who are you to tell me no that you're not happy?
Exactly.
I feel happy. That's how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
So people are entitled to their opinions, they're entitled to their feelings, and I think that just empathy, the world needs more empathy.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And sometimes just asking why, even if you're not like, if you don't agree, but you're still, you can still show curiosity and ask like why, even if you don't
Yes.
understand. And I think by just asking that simple word why, people would start sharing, and then you would understand the context instead of like judging the person.
Yes. You
Mhm.
can learn so much if you just allow yourself to ask those questions. And it's like so funny because now that you mention it, like it triggered me to think about like, grade school when teachers are like, there's no dumb questions. And that's such a true statement because there really is no dumb questions. Like I have some people in my life, that are like, no, don't ask that, or like, no, don't bother asking this person that. And you're like, why? What's it gonna hurt us to ask them for help, or like for direction? It's something as simple as like asking for directions, and my husband could be like, no, don't do that. We don't need it. Yes, we do. Like, yes, we do. And we don't know what that person's going to tell us. They could tell us, like, oh, you're actually here. You're just on the other side. But if you cut through here, there's a cute little spot that you can eat. Or, like, like there's just so much to be learned that we don't know.
Exactly. No, I totally agree. So, what are the things you like most about your job?
Just that. I love that I'm like constantly learning. And I'm not somebody that thinks I'm like, I'm not going to even try to say that I'm like super smart. Like I already told you guys, math is not my thing. Science is not my thing. As a student, like I was not there. I did my part to get by. And I think that in school, I was the type of student where like, I'm great. I'll engage in class, like, but I was not a good test taker. I did not know good study skills. My version of learning was like memorizing something just to pass the class and like get a good grade, And now I feel like I'm actually learning things because I'm talking to people that have lived through things, that are current living through things, and every day is different, Like I said, like every day I go in and I have a certain story that I'm going to work on, and no 2 days are the same. Even if it's another story on COVID-19, it's still not ever the same because you're talking to different people and hearing different perspectives all the time.
Yeah, and you're totally smart in this area. We're all smart in different areas, right? And I'm sure that the people that are really good at math cannot do what you do. So unfortunately, in school, they don't really highlight those things, but later in life, you realize that there are different types of intelligence, and what you can do naturally, somebody else cannot do naturally, and that's a fact. So I think it seems like you're living your purpose right now, and you're really good at it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. No, but I mean, it's true. And in school, I was always like, I would get the awards. I remember my mom and I like joking about it, but she'd be like, well, all your other friends got an award for like GPA and great grades, and you got like the kindness award. Good job, Mia. And I'm like, yeah, that's me. Like, but I mean, like, all right, at least you're raising like a good human being. Like, I'm kind. Like, but I'd always get like the character counts awards where everybody else would get like the prestigious like grades and GPA awards.
No,
if it's any consolation, I suck at math too. So
right on. There we go.
that's why I became a therapist.
Oh my God, it's so bad. I remember I was talking to one of my coworkers the other day and I was like, gosh, math was really not my thing. Now that I think back at it, like I knew it then and there, but like I would try to get by so much. And as you get to multiple choice questions, I'd be like, well, my answer's 12 and 12 isn't one of the multiple choice answers. So maybe if I round up the closest answers 14, that's what it is. Like B must be the answer.
that is so funny. But yeah, but the skills that you have like are important in life, like when you get a job, there are different types of skills that you need in order to deal with people and just like grow in an organization. And those are like the soft skills that are not measured in school. So yeah, so those skills, you being kind and having those abilities, maybe didn't seem, character maybe didn't seem like that great back then, but like now, like hiring managers, they really look at those things too. So
Yeah.
a lot of times they would rather hire somebody with the right attitude and maybe that needs some training versus somebody that is like super smart but that doesn't have that personality. So they look at those things too.
Well, yeah, because at the end of the day, you have to be able to work with people and you have to be like a team player, I think, to go far, and to work well with others. And, I'm not saying that it's not important for those people that are like academic people, great, like good for them. But I've never been asked what my GPA was when I was applying for a job. Or, like and it's sad because you work so hard for that stuff when you're in school. And even me, like in college, I don't know what happened. I flipped a script. Like I was a great student. I graduated with 3.6 and I was like, go me for once in my life. Like as proud as I was of those accomplishments after that semester or after that year or after those 4 years, it really didn't matter. And I don't know if it's because I'm in the communications field. And so that's why like nobody's ever asked me my GPA, but that's just my own experience.
I don't think they really ask for that, at least not from my experience. What about you?
I mean, I've worked in hiring committees and that's never come up ever.
Yeah. So it's interesting that we put such a stress on it in school. Like,
No, it's so true.
and it's like we laugh about it, but like there's kids and students that stress about this to a point where it makes them sick and or worse, like it leads them to commit suicide. They feel less than, and it's like, oh my gosh, are we focusing on the wrong things?
Exactly.
So what are some of the challenges that you encounter as a reporter?
There's a lot of stories that you report on that you, in the moment, you're sitting there and you're like, I'm a reporter. At least for me, I don't know how everybody else processes these things, but for me, I sit there and I try to process it as a reporter. So I'm asking questions, I'm hearing people's responses, I'm hearing people's feelings, and I try to tell myself like, reporter, you're not you. You're not like Ilyana Capellan. You are the reporter Ilyana Capellan right now. I try to put that shield up, but at the end of the day, there are some weeks, there are some months that I come home and I'm just like, I'm so exhausted and emotionally drained. And, my husband will be like, well, what happened? And I'm like, nothing happened today. Like today specifically. It's over, the past couple weeks or whatever, I've been reporting on this, that, or the other. And it's getting to me as a person, not as a reporter. It's getting to me as a person, and it's hard to keep that separate. And I don't know if I'll ever be able to like fully keep it separate. And I think that part of what, helps me do my job is the fact that I do care about people, but it's hard. It can be emotionally draining. It can be really emotionally draining. And you're reporting on things that aren't always happy and fluffy and feel good. You're reporting on the person's son who just got shot, or, the woman that has cancer for the 4th time and has 3 babies that are depending on her. There's a lot of things that it's like, oh gosh, like you're dealing with real life situations. It's not just TV.
I was actually going to ask you about that as a follow-up. So you talked about reporting on things that you don't always like. How much say do you have in the stories that you get assigned?
That's a really good question. It depends. So every day you come in with a set amount of ideas and you talk to your news director and you're like, here's what I was thinking for the day. I have this idea, I have this idea, I have this idea. So you kind of always have to have like a backup plan. And they'll tell you kind of like, okay, I really like this story, run with it, go with it. A while back, my news director was like, hey, like you've been on the health beat really heavy lately. Like you've been reporting on COVID. You've talked to COVID survivors. We have one lady that emailed us and she has COVID and the flu. Will you do an interview with her? And I was like, sure, I'd love to. Well, at that time, I was trying to get the interview and everything set up with her. And, I'm sure you guys deal with it too. Sometimes timing just doesn't work. Like you're trying to make something happen and it doesn't work. So I was trying to, get her on a Skype call because I wasn't going to expose myself and expose everybody else that I work with COVID, but I was trying to get her on a Skype or a Zoom or FaceTime, whatever. And she wasn't available. She was sick. She was trying to just stay healthy, and trying to recoup. And months down the line, so that was in the summer. A couple weeks ago, I literally was like, hey, let me reach back out to her. Let's see how she's doing, make sure she's okay. And then I'm going to ask her if she'd be interested in doing a story, because now more than ever, people are worried about both, the flu and COVID-19. So now we're dealing with this twindemic, and she's somebody that's gone through it. Maybe I can talk to her about it. And thankfully, she's doing much better. She's back to work. She's kind of, trying to get through. But I had told my news director, back to the original question, Ilyana, focus. I had told my news director, I know you want me to work on this other story, but I have this idea. What do you think? And he was like, yeah, actually, that's a good idea. Why don't you go with that? And so then I had the flexibility to kind of go talk to her and see how things were and follow that story wherever it led me. And I'm so happy I got to talk to her because, I started this journey off with her kind of when she was literally going through it. She emailed us, and I think she was on like the first week of going through everything. And so she was just journaling like how she was feeling, and she was just writing symptoms as they were coming along. She was just communicating to us exactly what she was going through. And I'm happy that, she's doing well now, and she's healthy, and she's able to, be the mom to her 3 babies and the wife to her husband that she once was. But like during that time, she said like it was hard. She was tired all the time, and she had to be, in her own portion of the house. Like she didn't get to really be with her kids and her family. And that went on for, I think she said like 3 weeks where she was quarantined. So, you do get say in what your stories are, but sometimes you don't get a say in what your story is. And you still need to put the same amount of effort that you would put into a story that you are absolutely passionate about to a story that you're not so passionate about. And I think that that's kind of what makes a difference in this field.
Are there stories that are assigned to you that just completely go against who you are as a person or your values? And do you get a chance to say, I'm not going to do that one?
There are stories that completely go against you and your values. Yes. Short of blank, yes. There are 100% stories that you're like, you want me to do what? Where? What? Like, I haven't had a story that like goes against my morals per se. So I don't know if there's anything where I've experienced something where I'm like, oh my God, I'm not doing that. I don't feel comfortable. But my news director and our whole news organization, thankfully, is really nice and really understanding. So my news director is the same one that, when he switched me to be the lead nightside reporter, he was like, look, I'm switching you to nightside. That means you're going to be out there in the dark. And when things break, like you have to be out there. But if you ever feel like the situation's not safe, communicate that to us and get yourself out of there. So there is kind of that, there's that understanding of like, at the end of the day, yes, I'm your employee, but at the end of the day, I'm still a human being, and I can't be putting myself on the line if it's dangerous, like, is it really worth it? And I guess that's kind of a bridge that I'll cross when I get there. But right now, I've been okay. I've been all right.
That's good. I wanted to add that I think it's a beautiful thing that the people that you interview, like even though the stories may be difficult, but they can feel like you truly care, like that you're empathetic, that you're not just interviewing them because you want a story, but you also care. And I think that's nice, especially when you do difficult or emotional stories that people can feel that love.
Most definitely. And that's probably like the best compliment that I get paid. Like that's the best feeling. Like I don't care when people are like, oh my gosh, that was a great story. Like you got so and so many views. I'd rather have somebody reach out to me and be like, I could tell that you cared about me, and thank you for just listening to me. Because that's it. That's all I'm here to do. I'm just here to listen to your story and hopefully tell it the way it needs to be told. I'd rather hear that compliment and hear that I like listened to somebody or made them feel good than hear like, oh my gosh, you got 7,000 views or whatever. Like that it's immeasurable,
So what's the next step for you as a reporter?
I don't know. I'm kind of planting a couple seeds. I get a little nervous when I like have to say everything exactly, because then I'm like, oh God, that puts the pressure on me to like actually do those things. But I wanna move up in the market. Right now the goal is to get back to California, and California can be really competitive, and that's fine. I just want to be back to California, and I want to grow as a reporter. I also would love to be doing like more anchoring and more hosting. It's interesting because like if you had asked me this question 3 years ago, my answer would just be like to be on E! News, like to be doing entertainment news. That was the goal. That was like it. That I could not see past that. And now I have like experience as a reporter, reporting on like different topics and important topics. and learning so much. And I'm like, well, now I just want to get better. I just want to keep learning. I want to be on that level that like you see those reporters where you're like, she's doing it. She's going to be good one day. Like that's who I want to be. I just want to that. And I just want to set a good example and hopefully be like a positive light in people's life. I want to, I guess, be more involved in the community. So it's been hard, obviously, because of COVID. You can't really like do community relations type things. You can't really be going to schools and talking to kids about their careers. But eventually hopefully we can get back to a place where we can do stuff like that. And I want to, be motivational for people. I want to be someone that people can look at and be like, she's doing it. Like I'm obviously, I'm Mexican and I'm Dominican. And like I said, my parents were born in other countries and came to California eventually and had me and my siblings. And I want to make them proud. I always am aiming to make my family proud. And that can be really hard sometimes because like I said, their first initial reaction was like, get a job that has medical benefits and all that stuff. And my first job did not have that. But it can be difficult because sometimes they don't understand the way things are now. And same with like my family. My grandma's 92 years old. Like I'm lucky if she remembers like where I'm at sometimes. But I want to be someone that other little kids and little girls can look up to and be like, hey, like I can do something like that too. For me, my parents not going to college, like I don't think that I really realized that until I got older, how big of a deal it is that they made like such a great life for us. Because when I was younger, I was just going through it. I was just like, well, this is my life. Like, I'm going to school. I'm cheering. I'm in piano. I'm in choir lessons. Like whatever. Like I'm just doing it. And now looking back at it, like I'm obviously so grateful for everything that they've done for me and the way that they raised me. But I want to do that and more. Like I don't want to just be the Hispanic girl and like the token like Latina on TV, like I want it to be like, okay, she's a Latina on TV, but she's known for much more than just being the Latina on TV, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So where can someone find you online?
I'm on Instagram. It's at Ilyana. It's ILYANA _. On Twitter and Facebook, ILYANA. Capellan is CAPELLAN. You'll find my reporter page and my reporter Twitter online under Ilyana Capellan, and Instagram is Ilyana _.
Well, Ilyana, it's definitely been a pleasure having you on, and thank you for everything you shared. If you could just do me one favor before we go, can you sign us off?
Of course. Thank you guys so much for having me. Reporting live where culture and creativity meets consciousness, Ilyana Capellan, Beard and Curls.
Yeah! I love it.
Thank you, Ilyana.
Of course. Thank you guys so much. This was so much fun, honestly.
Well, there you have it, folks. That's our show for today.
Thanks again for tuning in.
And as always, like it or not, Beard and Curls is the new his and hers.